didn't burn in one bright moment, no fire lit the sky. We just kept striking matches in rooms already dry. The heat was slow and silent, no warning, no alarm. By the time we felt the smoke, we were holding on. I thought love could survive a little damage, a little flame. I didn't know what stays behind doesn't look the same. Now there's ashes in the shape of us where something used to stand. You can still see the outline, but you can't hold it in your hand. There was warmth, there was promise, there was something we almost touched. Now there's ashes in the shape of us and nothing left to clutch. We caught it working through it, caught it growing pain. But every quiet compromise was feeding the flame. You said we were still breathing, said we weren't that far gone. But smoke doesn't mean survival when the fire's already done. I confused being hopeful with refusing to see. I didn't know love could end without leaving. There's ashes in the shape of us drifting in the air. I'm still brushing them from my clothes like you're still there. I didn't need perfection or a flawless plan, but ashes in the shape of us weren't what I had planned. What I had planned. We watched it dim to ember, said it's just a phase. You felt safe in the cool, and while I felt the blaze, I was trying to save a flicker. You were letting it fade. By the time we named the damage, we were already made of smoke and stains. Now there's ashes in the shape of us, and I finally understand. Love doesn't survive on memory or where it used to stand. I won't gather what has burned, don't pretend it's enough. There's ashes in the shape of us, and that's what's left of love. And that's what's left of love. I don't regret the fire or how brightly it was, but now there's ashes in the shape of us, and I'm letting the wind take them. There was tension in the choir, hanging in the air, like something slowly breaking, but nobody called it there. We felt it in the distance, in the way you look away, like a warning with no siren at the end of every day. I kept searching for the reason for something clear and bright. But all I found was smoke, with nothing left to fight. It was smoke without fire, heat without a flame, something slowly fading, but nobody to blame. I kept trying to hold it, like it still burned true, but it was smoke without fire. And I was losing you. We talked about the surface, never what was real. We named it just a season instead of how we feel. You said I was imagining, said nothing's wrong at all, but love shouldn't leave you guessing if it's about to fall. I confused being anxious with being aware. I didn't know absence could already be there. It was smoke without fire, a signal with no spark. I kept standing in the gray while you drifted in the dark. I didn't need a perfect answer or proof carved in stone, but smoke without fire means something's already gone. You never said you were leaving, never said goodbye. You just stopped holding steady right before my eyes. I was choking on the questions you refused to name, breathing in the silence like it wouldn't stain. It was smoke without fire, and I finally see love doesn't disappear loudly, it just stops being. I won't stand in confusion or wait for the flame. It was smoke without fire, and that's why I walked away. I don't regret believing it still had a spot, but it was smoke without fire. And I chose the dark over doubt. We built our love like shelter, but the structure felt too light. Every word went through it, every whispered fight. I heard you through the distance, even when you stayed. We stood in separate corners of a room we made. I thought walls meant safety, something strong and tall. I didn't know we were hiding behind paper walls. We were living in paper walls, thin enough to tear. Every doubt could shake them, every silence filled the air. I kept trying to reinforce it, hold it up somehow, but love built on paper walls is breaking now. We avoided the hard truth, said let's keep it light, but tension travels quickly through something built this life. You said we were still solid, said nothing's falling down. But I could feel the trembling every time you turned around. I confused being careful with being secure. I didn't know fragile love can endure. We were living in paper walls, pretending they were stone. I was scared to push too hard in case I stood alone. I didn't need perfection, no guarantees at all. But love shouldn't feel this fragile. Behind paper walls, we kept the peace so quietly. We never fixed the cracks. You liked how calm it looked, I felt it falling back. I call this being mature, call this staying strong. But paper walls can't carry what's been wrong for long. We were living in paper walls, now they're falling through. Love shouldn't feel this breakable between me and you. I won't rebuild with something that tears this small. If love lived behind paper walls, it won't hold it all. I don't regret the shelter or how long we tried, but paper walls don't last, and neither did we inside. There was no final argument, no door slammed shut, just a slow realization we'd both had enough. I stopped explaining my silence, stopped asking you to see. I'd already said everything you wouldn't hear from me. I thought endings would be louder, something sharp and clear. I didn't know they could arrive this calm, this near. This was a quiet exit, no chaos, no scene, just me choosing honesty over what we used to be. There was love, there was effort, but not enough to stay, so I took a quiet exit. You asked if we were okay, I said we'll be fine, but fine had been our language for a long, long time. I stopped expecting more from you, stopped fighting to belong. I realized peace feels different when you've been tired too long. I confused being calm with being whole. I didn't know how much of me I'd already let go. It was a quiet exit, no blame to defend. I didn't leave to hurt you, I just couldn't pretend. I didn't need perfection or some dramatic end. just a quiet exit before I broke again. We both felt it fading, just never said it out loud. You were comfortable drifting, I was done being proud. I call this being patient, call this letting it breathe. But I was already grieving something you couldn't see. This was a quiet exit, but it wasn't weak. Sometimes strength is knowing when not to speak. Love shouldn't cost your voice or ask you to stay small. So I took a quiet exit and kept myself whole. Just a quiet exit and the space to live. There are faded handprints on the glass where we used to stand, proof that we were once here, trying to understand. The surface still remembers where your fingers trace my name, but time has softened everything that once felt like a flame. I thought marks would mean forever, something time couldn't erase. I didn't know love could linger without staying in place. Now there's faded handprints, barely holding shape, like something that once fit perfectly but slowly slipped away. I keep touching where you touch me, like it might bring you back, but faded handprints don't like that. We didn't break in pieces, didn't shatter on the floor. We just stopped pressing close enough to leave a mark anymore. You said things still matter, said we were still the same, but love shouldn't fade this quietly without someone to blame. I confused being gentle with letting go. I didn't know absence could settle this slow. There are faded handprints, ghosts against the light. I can see where we once leaned, but not feel you tonight. I didn't need perfection or promises that last, but faded handprints mean we're in the past. Oh, we used to leave impression on everything we touched. Now I can't even tell if it ever meant that much. I was holding on to memory like it could still be true, but memories don't reach back the way we used to. Now there's faded handprints, and I finally understand stood, close enough to leave a mark, but faded handprints disappear in the dark. We look perfect on the surface, smooth and white and clean. No one saw the pressure building in between. We handled each other gently, afraid of making sound, like one wrong move would show them the fractures underneath we found. I thought careful meant forever, the quiet meant we're fine. I didn't see the thin lines forming across this heart of mine. We were cracked porcelain, still standing on the shelf, trying not to notice how we were breaking ourselves. There was beauty in the picture, but weakness in the frame. We were cracked porcelain, pretending not to change. We avoided every impact, softened every fall, but love can't stay untouched when it's built that small. You said we were still solid, said nothing's come apart, but I could feel the trembling travel through my heart. I confused being fragile with being safe. I didn't know love could break without a single mistake. We were cracked porcelain, hairline fall so thin, smiling for the outside while splintering within. I didn't need perfection or something without scars, but cracked porcelain can't hold what's hard. You liked how we looked together, balance, calm, composed. You never touched the fragile parts we both knew were exposed. I was holding every fracture, hoping they wouldn't show, but pressure always finds a way to let the damage grow. We were cracked porcelain, and now it's clear to see love shouldn't feel this breakable between you and me. I won't glue a shattered just to keep it whole. Cracked porcelain cuts deeper than it shows. I don't regret the beauty of what we tried to build, but cracked porcelain can't stay untouched forever. We were never fully dark, but never fully bright, just something in between, like a flickering light. I kept waiting for it to steady, for the glow to hold, but it trembled in the silence I could fear the cold. I thought love was constant, not something you defend. I didn't know how tiring it is to wonder if it ends. We were a flickering light, shaking in the night. I kept cupping my hands around it, trying to make it right. There was warmth for a moment, and shadows inside. We were a flickering light, never steady, never bright. You said it was just timing, said we'd find our way, but love shouldn't feel this fragile every single day. I stopped trusting the brightness when it showed up again, because every small ignition came with if and when. I confused small sparks with something that could last. I didn't know how quickly old can burn too fast. We were a flickering light, alive but unsure. I was trying to save the glow, you were closing the door. I didn't need perfection or fire in the sky, but flickering light leaves you asking why. You liked that it was gentle, not too much, not loud. But love shouldn't feel this temporary just because it's allowed. I was guarding every ember like it still meant home, but a light that keeps on trembling was never meant to hold. We were a flickering light, and I finally see love shouldn't need protection from its own fragility. I won't live in the half-glow, afraid of the night if it's only a flickering light. It's not my love. I don't regret the warmth or how close it felt. Flickering light still leaves you in the dark. You never said you were leaving, you just changed your tone, started speaking in sentences that felt half known. I learned to read the pauses, the spaces in your eye. What you never chose to tell me lived between the lines. I thought clarity would come if I just listened close, but truth was never shouted. It was something we both avoided most. It was written between the lines, and every almost truth, in the way you held me loosely, like you were passing through. There was love in your language, but doubt in every sign. Everything I needed to know. between the lines. You said we're just tired, said don't overthink, but your silence said more than what you let me believe. I kept translating distance into something kind, but kindness doesn't hide itself between the lines. I confused being hopeful with refusing to see. I didn't know avoidance could speak so clearly, was written between the lines. In every careful phrase, I was searching for commitment. You were buying time and space. I didn't need perfection or promises signed, but love shouldn't feel this hidden between the lines. You master saying almost made distance sound polite. You wrapped uncertainty in words that felt right. I kept waiting for the sentence where you'd finally choose, but endings don't need punctuation when they're already true. It was written between the lines, and now I understand. Love doesn't stay unspoken if it wants to stand. Oh, I won't keep decoding what should be clear in time. If I have to search that hard for love, it's not mine. I don't regret believing what I wanted to find, but the truth was always there between the lines. You said I'll do better, like you always do. The words sounded familiar before they left you. I wanted to believe it, wanted to feel that spark, but promises lose color when they're made in the dark. I thought effort meant change, the time will prove it true. I didn't know how heavy it gets waiting on you. We were living on worn out promises, thin as paper in my hands. I kept folding them carefully, like they'd finally stand. There was hope in every sentence, but nothing ever moved. We were living on worn out promises that never came through. You said just be patient, said I'm trying my best, but trying shouldn't feel like something I have to get. I stopped counting the chances, stopped asking for proof, because every new beginning felt like the same old truth. I confused repetition with commitment and care. I didn't know empty words could still sound sincere. We were living stacked up high but weak. I was holding on to future you were avoiding this week. I didn't need perfection or vows carved in stone, but worn out promises can't build a home. You believed what you were saying every single time, but believing isn't enough if nothing aligns. I was loving potential, not what you'd become. And hope gets tired when change never comes. We were living on worn out promises, and I finally see love shouldn't feel recycled or stuck on repeat. I won't wait for another version of words I've heard before. Worn out promises don't open doors. I don't regret believing in what you said you'd be, but worn out promises wore out me. We didn't know it was the last time we leaned in that close. Didn't label the moment or hold it like we're supposed to. Your hand rested in mine like it always had before. But something in the stillness felt different than before. I thought warmth would linger if we just stayed near. I didn't know goodbye could already be here. Skin, a quiet kind of comfort we wouldn't feel again. There was love in the silence, but distance underneath it was the last warmth before we both released. We spoke about tomorrow like it still belonged to us, but our voices sounded careful, like we knew it wouldn't last. You held me just a second longer than you usually would, like your heart was memorizing what it understood. I confused familiar closeness with something that could stay. I didn't know someone is already walking away. It was the last one, fading slow and low. I was trying not to feel what we both already know. I didn't need forever or a reason to defend, but the last one means this is the end. You didn't pull away suddenly, you just loosened your hold, like you were letting winter take what used to be warm. I wanted to freeze that moment keep it in my hands, but warmth can't survive when love no longer stands. It was the last one, and I let it pass through. Love doesn't stay burning just because we want it to. I won't chase the memory or beg it to return. It was the last one, and now I feel the cold. I don't regret the closeness or how real it felt. It was the last one, and I carry it quietly. We were standing in the quiet, like the air was too still, smiling through the pressure neither one would admit we feel. You said everything was fine, said the sky was clear, but I could hear it rumbling somewhere far from here. I thought maybe it would pass, just noise without a storm. I didn't know some madness begin before they're born. There was distant thunder rolling through the dark. I felt it in my chest before it hit my heart. We kept pretending not to hear what was coming through. There was distant thunder and it sounded like losing you. We talked about the surface, about work and plans and days, but every small distraction couldn't drown the waves. You avoided every question that trembled on my tongue, but silence doesn't hide what's already begun. I confused being patient with being in denial. I didn't know how loud the truth can echo for miles. There was distant thunder building in the sky. I kept hoping it was nothing, just a passing sign. I didn't need perfection or sunshine every time, but distant thunder means something's on the line. You said I was overthinking, said storms don't always fall, but I've learned how love shifts before it breaks at all. I was listening for lightning, you were closing your eyes, but thunder doesn't whisper, it warns before goodbye. Now the distant thunder isn't far away, it's crashing in the silence we refuse to name. Love doesn't fall in one loud sound, it gathers over time. There was distant thunder, and now the storm is mine. Before the clouds turn blue, a distant thunder was always about you. threads in the silence, tiny pulls we ignored. We said it was just distance, not something we couldn't afford. I felt it in the small things, in the way you let go fast, like holding on too tightly might make it not last. I thought we could mend it if we were careful enough. I didn't know love unravels even when you call it blood. We were hanging by loose thread, trying not to pull too hard. I kept stitching up the spaces, you kept drifting apart. There was still something between us, but it was thinning instead. We were hanging by loose threads and calling it love. We stopped asking hard questions, stopped saying what we need, because truth can tug the fabric until it starts to bleed. You said we were still solid, said nothing's coming undone, but I could feel the tension in what we become. I confused being hopeful with being afraid to see. I didn't know how fragile almost can be. We were hanging by loose threads, pretending they were tied. I was trying to weave us back, you were done with the fight. I didn't need perfection or something flawless instead, but love can't survive forever on loose threads. You said it's just a phase, said we're just threads, but phases don't feel like loving you less. I was holding every strand like it was enough, but one more quiet pull and it all comes undone. We were hanging by loose threads, and now they've slipped away. Love doesn't stay woven if both don't choose to stay. I won't tie myself to something already halfway dead. We were hanging by loose threads, and now I let them shred. I don't regret the fabric of what we tried to be, but loose threads never hold completely. Nothing shattered in the open, no headlines, no alarms. We just stopped holding steady in each other's arms. You still slept beside me, still called me love at night, but something underneath us was losing its fight. I thought if we stayed gentle, it wouldn't fall apart. I didn't know collapse can start inside the heart. It was a quiet collapse, no warning in the sound, just something slowly breaking without it in the ground. We kept smiling through it like nothing had changed, but it was a quiet collapse happening anyway. We avoided every tremor, every crack in the frame. Called it just a season, so we wouldn't name the pain. You said we were still stable, said we were okay, but love shouldn't feel this fragile every single day. I confused being calm with being whole. I didn't know how much of me was already letting go. It was a quiet collapse, walls caving in slow. I was trying to hold the ceiling, you were letting it go. I didn't need perfection or a dramatic end, but quiet collapse is how we been. You never saw the moment I stopped asking you to stay. You felt safe in the stillness while I was slipping away. I call this being patient, call this keeping peace, but I was grieving something that wouldn't cease. It was a quiet collapse, and now I understand. Love doesn't survive just because we stand. I won't rebuild on silence or pretend we're intact. It was a quiet collapse, and I won't go back. No ruins in the daylight, no smoke in the sky, just a quiet collapse and a quiet goodbye. There's still a nail in a wall where your picture used to hang. The outline hasn't faded, but everything has changed. I kept the frame in place, like that might mean you'd stay. But what it used to hold has slowly slipped away. I thought space could be filled if I just waited long. I didn't know some absences outlive what was strong. Now it's just an empty frame hanging where we were, a memory without a face, a promise without a word. I keep staring at the outline of what we used to claim, but love can't live forever in an empty frame. We look perfect in the picture, smiling side by side, but even then the cracks were there. We chose to hide. You said we were still standing, said nothing fell apart, but sometimes what's still visible has already left your heart. I confused what looked complete with what I didn't know how quietly something can divide. Now it's just an empty frame, still shaped like you and me. I kept hoping time would bring back what used to be. I didn't need perfection or a flawless claim, but love shouldn't end as an empty frame. You walked out slowly, not tearing anything down, just leaving me to notice what wasn't around. I was holding on to edges of something that's gone, but frames don't mean forever when the picture's moved on. It's just an empty frame now, and I finally see love doesn't stay alive on memory. I won't keep the outline of what we became. I'm taking down this empty frame. I don't regret the picture or how real it seemed, but empty frames don't hold dreams. I saw us in the mirror, but softer than before, like colors drained slowly from what we were. Your face was right beside mine, but something felt erased, like love had left a shadow in its place. I thought time would warm it, bring the light back in. I didn't know reflections fade when truth grows thin. All I see are pale reflections of who we used to be, standing in the same room, but not the same to me. There's an outline in the glass where our colors used to blend. Now it's just pale reflections looking back again. We stopped recognizing the way we used to feel, started calling distance being real. You said nothing's different, said we're still the same, but love shouldn't lose its brightness without someone to blame. I confuse familiarity with staying whole. I didn't know how slowly you can lose control. All I see are pale reflections flickering in the light. I keep trying to see us, but it's fading out of sight. I didn't need perfection or forever to defend, but pale reflections mean this is near the end. We used to look alive together, clear again just silhouettes in something that unfurled. I was searching for our color in a washed out frame, but you can't repaint a feeling that won't remain. Now it's only pale reflections, and I finally understand. Love doesn't stay vivid just because we plan. I will keep staring at what we pretend. Pale reflections can't love again. I don't regret the brightness or how real it seemed, but pale reflections aren't the same as being seen. Nothing fell in pieces loudly, no shattered glass on the floor, just a quiet kind of breaking we don't talk about anymore. There's dust along the edges of what we used to be, soft debris in corners only I can see. I thought if it was gentle it wouldn't leave a scar. I didn't know the smallest fragments travel just as far. Now I'm living with soft debris settling in my chest, tiny pieces of a love that never fully left. It's not loud enough to name it, not sharp enough to flee. Just quiet little remnants still clinging to me. I sweep around the memories, but they don't disappear. They linger in the breathing of an empty atmosphere. You said it wasn't broken, said we just needed space. But space leaves scattered fragments you can't fully erase. I confuse not dramatic with not that deep. I didn't know soft endings still make you weep. I'm still walking through soft debris, careful where I step. Every small reminder is something I haven't left. I didn't need perfection or something meant to stay, but soft debris doesn't fade away. We never called it ruin, never said it died. We just stopped holding tightly and let it slide. Now I'm left with particles floating in the light, pieces of a story that ended without a fight. I'm done living with soft debris, brushing off what's gone. Love shouldn't leave you cleaning up long after it's done. I won't keep inhaling what we couldn't be. No more breathing in soft debris. Nothing shattered loudly, no one heard the plea. just soft debris where you used to be. We had that first ignition, that rush beneath the skin, the kind that makes you believe this is where it begins. But sparks don't last forever, they flicker then they fall, and no one tells you what remains after it all. I thought fire meant future, that heat would hold its place. I didn't know how quickly it could lose its place. What are we after the spark? When the glow is gone, when the silence stretches longer than the feeling we held on. There was light in the beginning, there was something in the dark, but love feels different after the spark. We stopped chasing the brightness, stopped leaning in close, started loving out of habit more than what we chose. You said this is just normal, said it settles down, but love shouldn't feel this quiet when it's still around. I confuse calm with distance, stability with loss. I didn't know some endings happen without a cause. Who are we after the spark when it's steady but unsure? I was looking for the fire, you were closing the door. I didn't need perfection or flames in the dark, but I needed something living after the spark. Maybe we were just a moment, a flash across the sky, something beautiful and fleeting, not meant to survive. I was holding on to memory like it still burned bright, but memories don't warm you in the night. Now I see what comes after the spark, when truth steps in. Love can't survive on history or how it once began. I won't chase a feeling that's already past. Some sparks are only sparks, they're never meant to last. I don't regret the light or how it felt at the start, but what we became after the spark wasn't enough, hadn't enough. Hadn't enough. speaking lowered voices, like the walls might break. Every word is measured for the silence sake. There's something in the space now, too delicate to name. Like even breathing deeply could shift the frame. I thought love was solid, something we could bear. I didn't know it could thin out into fragile air. We're standing in fragile air, careful where we move. Like one wrong truth between us would tear the room in two. There's closeness in the distance, but tension everywhere. We're trying not to break it, this fragile air. We avoid the sharp edges round every doubt. Call it being gentle when we're just shutting down. You say it's only pressure, that it'll disappear. But love shouldn't feel this breakable when someone draws near. I confuse being quiet with keeping us safe. I didn't know silence can slowly suffocate. We're living in fragile air, thin enough to tear. I'm holding back my honesty, you're pretending not to care. I didn't need perfection or answers laid bare, but love shouldn't feel like fragile air. You like that it's calm here, no storms, no fight. But calm can be emptiness disguised as right. I was swallowing thunder so you wouldn't feel it too. But pressure always lingers in what we don't do. We're breathing in fragile air, and I finally see love can't survive if it's scared to breathe. I won't tiptoe forever just to show I care. If love feels this breakable, it's already not there. No glass on the floor, no obvious repair, just two hearts suspended in fragile air. Felt it race and shatter, heard it break in two, watched it lose its rhythm, trying to hold you. There were nights it barely whispered, days it felt unsure, but somehow in the silence it kept beating more. I thought love would end me, thought pain would make it stop. I didn't know the heart survives even when it's lost. There's still a the sky, a quiet kind of rhythm that outlives broken hearts. I've been shaken, I've been honest, I've fallen apart, but there's still a steady pulse in this heart. I don't rush the healing, I don't fake the calm. I let the bruises breathe now instead of holding on. I've learned what love should feel like, what it's not allowed to do. And even after everything, I still believe it's true. I'm not afraid of loving, just careful where I start, because strength isn't silence, it's an open heart. There's still a steady pulse in me, even after you. It didn't stop believing just because we were through. I don't need to prove it or rush into the dark. There's still a steady pulse in this heart. I've loved in ways that emptied me, loved in ways that hurt, but love isn't weaker just because it learned. It's braver for continuing, for choosing to restart, for keeping a steady pulse through every part. There's still a steady pulse in me, clearer than before. It doesn't beg for someone to knock on its door. It beats for something honest, something real and true. There's still a steady pulse, and it's not afraid of you. I don't know where it's leading or who will hear it next, but there's still a steady pulse, and that's enough. Crack the window open after months of closed air. Let the quiet move around me instead of staying there. The room still holds your echo, but it doesn't own the space. There's light across the floor now, where shadows used to stay. I thought moving on meant forgetting what was true. I didn't know it could mean letting in something new. There's an open window, and I'm breathing differently, not running from the past, just letting it release me. I'm not waiting at the doorway, steps that won't come. There's an open window, and I'm finally undone. I don't rush the sunlight, I let it find its way. The healing or push the pain away. The air feels unfamiliar, but lighter than before, like something in my chest isn't lying. the curtains move slow, I'm not afraid of silence like I was before. I don't need a rescue or someone at my side. There's an open window and I'm alive. Maybe love will find me through a different door. Maybe it won't look like what it did before, but I won't close the window out of fear or pride. I learned how to stay open without letting myself hide. There's an open window and the air feels clear. I'm not who I was when you were here. I won't shut the light out or rebuild those walls. There's an open window and I'm ready for it all. No slam doors behind me, no shadows to defend, just an open window and the start of something gentle.